Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Capricorn, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July. I hope you are well. I'm using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today. I know these readings are late. Thank you so much for waiting for me. I have been somewhat under the weather. Sorry about the noise. My cat is outside. He seems to have forgotten the front door is permanently open and he can just walk through that. Anywho, let's get straight on with this, Capricorn. So, I have 3 cards for Capricorn, please. Oh, there we have the King of Cups in your recent past, Scorpio energy. Current energy for Capricorn, please, is the King of Swords. And what's coming towards Capricorn, please? Thank you. We have the 8 of Wands. So, no major arcana for you this month. Oh, I've got the Knight of Swords underneath there as well. It's Gemini energy. No major arcana for you this month. And for some reason, I do feel like that's a relief for you. Now, we are in Cancer season, and obviously Cancer is your opposite sign on the zodiac. Oh dear. Which means that the energy of Cancer season particularly affects you. And I'm going to pull some clarifiers before I say any more, because it feels like there's an ordering going on. And that's probably the best way to put it. Let's just see what the clarifiers say before we move any further. Tell me about the King of Cups, please. Thank you. We have the Star, Aquarius energy, as the King of Swords is. Tell me about the King of Cups, please. And we have the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse, which is interesting. Tell me about the King of Swords, please. There we go. We've got the 6 of Wands in the reverse. Tell me about the King of Swords. We've got the 2 of Swords. Yeah, I can see where this is going. What popped out to the side there? 8 of Swords popped out to the side. I don't usually take it, but I actually think it's quite useful to reference here. So I'm just going to put it at the top of the reading. Tell me about the 8 of Wands, please. We have the 9 of Pentacles in reverse. And we have the Judgment card. Right. We've got another Knight at the bottom of the deck. We've got the Knight of Wands this time. And the Knight of Pentacles behind that. Right, there's Sagittarius and Virgo energy respectively. And just pop those to the side. This is a month of decision making for you, but I don't think the decision is actually like the thrust exactly of the energy. More it is everything up to the making of the decision. And there's a number of reasons why I say that, and we'll get into that in a moment. But these 2 kings that you have both in your past and present energy, and by past I mean that could literally be a couple of days ago, even a couple of hours ago, anything up to maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, because these are a little bit late, right? These are both active expressions of the suit that they represent. So the King of Cups is the active expression of emotion. The King of Swords is the active expression of communication and intellect and reason and rationality, those kind of things, right? The King of Swords is also given to be an energy that speaks of decision making, willingness to make a decision, the ability to be able to make a decision, you know, the capability. And the need for logic and reason and rationality, well, perhaps the push towards it where that might not be the thing that you need. I'm going to use the Wild Unknown on top because I feel like we have some supplemental stuff going on here. So tell me about this Wheel of Fortune. And we've got the Devil. There you are. And we've got the 5 of Wands and the Mother of Cups both showing up here. Right, this is interesting. There's the Justice card. Look at all of these major arcana that are coming out in the supplementary cards here, speaking to an undercurrent that is going on with you. It could be that what has been happening is that this has been less of a conscious kind of thing, but more coming to awareness that there's something going on in your subconscious that needs addressing. You know, the Justice card is a very strong card. There you are, actually underneath there is the Mother of Pentacles, and particularly when it's coming up in a relationship with the Judgment card and the Wheel of Fortune, whether or not it's in the reverse or the upright, in the same reading. I think that there is something quite profound going on with you here. So to come back to this idea of Cancer season, and there it is represented down there. Well, what do we know about Cancer, right? Cancer is deeply emotional, right? It's a water sign. It is, in some ways, in a very surface interpretation, you could say that Cancer is everything that Capricorn is not, right? But that wouldn't be strictly true. It certainly seems that way on the surface, but it's only true if you disregard the fact that Capricorn is the sea goat, right? That they are actually sensitive and they are actually emotional and all these kind of things, in which case Cancer is kind of bringing that to the surface. Cancer season is bringing that to the surface for you and asking for you to look into it, asking for you to pay attention to those deep feelings that are going on within you. Now, you'll be 2 weeks, 2 and a bit weeks into Cancer season. No, slightly longer actually. And what we've got here, like I said, there feels like there's a kind of reordering going on here. Now, it could be work-life balance and stuff like that. I mean, it could literally just be as basic as that. Or it could be speaking to something that's running a little bit deeper, right? Because there seems to be an accessibility that you have achieved to your emotions that has surprised you. There's an element of surprise here, but at the same time, you don't feel surprised. It's almost like it's raised its head, but because you knew it was hiding, you're kind of shocked to see it, but not necessarily surprised. Now, the King of Cups, like I said, is Scorpio energy, and it deals with very, very deep emotions, right? And the giving of those deep emotions, which is not something that Capricorn is particularly renowned for. There tends to be a very common sense kind of energy about Capricorn, where it's like, well, where's the practical stuff here? Give me something I can work with. Give me something I can plan. Give me something I can strategize. Give me something that I can aim towards. And emotions are messy. I'm not talking about the day-to-day emotions of, you and your mates and all that sort of thing. I'm talking about the really, really profound ones, like the relationships, I'm going to say, that you have with your parents, Capricorn, because quite often they can be a little bit rocky, deep down, not necessarily on the surface, but deep down. The relationships that you have to your spouse or to your, I'm going to go with long-term partner of some description, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, because you take time to get to know on a really deep level. You're not the type of sign who opens themselves up to everyone, right? They've got to prove themselves as to be worthy, which is fine, it's completely understandable. But this feels like it's kind of popped up. For some of you, it could even be the relationship that you have with your children, actually. Just thinking about that, right? And it's clarified here by the Star and by the Wheel of Fortune. And this feels like a combined kind of energy of, there are actually great things that I hope for. There are things that I want. There are emotions that I want to be able to experience to the fullest extent of my being. And yet, something about where I am seems to have locked that down. It's restricted it in some way. We talk a lot on this channel about getting the fuck out of your own way, but with it being you, Capricorn, here, and the influence of Saturn on Capricorn, what we've got here is a sense of consequence. Justice here does talk about consequences, and they are your consequences, right? The consequences of your actions. What have you done up until this point, and has it put you where you want to be? Now, in some ways, the answer will be an absolute resounding yes. In others, oh goodness, there's an alarm going off. In others, the answer is a little bit more ephemeral. It's a little bit harder to nail down. This is an air sign, but there's always water depicted somewhere. There's an implication of water because Aquarius is the water bearer, right? But there's a sense of connection and there's a sense of vulnerability going on here too. This Wheel of Fortune being in reverse, and particularly with, I think it's Anubis, right? At the bottom there. It says that in regard to this, emotional fulfillment is actually not happening for you at the moment, right? What we've got is kind of devilish looking dog that is sitting atop the Wheel of Fortune for you as it stands, and it feels a lot to me like you're realizing that some things that you have invested in have not given you the emotional the word I'm looking for. It is fulfillment. It's the emotional fulfillment that you thought that you would get from doing it. Now this, I mean, we'll state the obvious, this could well be your employment, whatever it is that you do to be able to, exist on this 3D plane on a day-to-day basis, right? Maybe you've been head down, for a decade working really, really hard for your, career and stuff like that. And then you turn around and like your kids have grown or maybe they've moved out and stuff like that. And you're like, shit, where are all of my fundamental relationships? Like maybe they're not there as much as they could be, as much as you would like them to be. The thing is, don't feel like this is a bad thing at all, because this King of Cups is here first, right? There are these really strong feelings that you seem to have suddenly connected to, and they want an outlet. They want somewhere to go. This is not about necessarily receiving, it's about giving, And this feeling that I have about a reordering, since we're like halfway through your solar year, right now, as we're in Cancer season, it's kind of like, what are you going to change and what are you going to do about it? Like the cards that I pulled out underneath here were the Devil and the Queen of Cups, and there she is pointing directly to you in Cancer season, as she is saying the emotional stuff. How's it going? Are you enjoying it? Like, look at yourself. Are you happy? Are you living the life that you want? And with this Five of Wands here, where are you actually conflicted about what it is that you've built for yourself? Now, in some ways, this is kind of messy, and in some ways, this is kind of unpleasant, because actually we'd just like to go things to go in nice, neat, straight lines so we can follow the plan and we can do all of these things. But you are the sea goat. And your emotions and your sensitivity, your compassion, all of these things need an outlet. And whatever's happened for you recently seems to have brought to the fore that they don't have an outlet quite as much as you would like, This isn't exactly a feeling of restriction, it's more of a feeling of being able to release, being able to liberate yourself from something. You put yourself into a situation and there are consequences to that, as there are consequences to everything, because, justice and karma and all that kind of thing. But karma is neutral, right? It's not a punishment. And I think sometimes we get hung up on that Saturnian aspect of, delayed gratification and making sure you're doing everything, and like that grind that you need with it. But karma's neutral. It just says for every action there is a reaction, for everything that you do there is a consequence, and whether that consequence is good or bad is something that you're going to have to sit with, you're going to have to contemplate for yourself. And for whatever reason, whatever's happened recently, maybe it is just the act of moving into Cancer season, you are now suddenly aware of your emotions in a way that requires action. Something needs to be done, something needs to be decided, because in your current energy, you've got that Aquarian energy again of the King of Swords, the decision maker. But look here, you've got the Six of Wands in reverse and you've got the Two of Swords, and it's somewhat of a deadlock that you find yourself in at the moment, because on the one hand, things seem to be going very well. Things seem to be very successful. You know, if you had a hard time in the last few years, it seems to me that you've kind of got yourself on your feet, and that's all good. If you've been working towards, you know, any particular goals, you seem to be achieving those. But there's an emptiness that isn't going away. And what is it that you need to do to fix that? What is it that you need to do to bring that sense of victory back to yourself? And at the moment, I'm not sure that you know, not with this Two of Swords. Now, I'll remind you that the Eight of Swords was the card that, well, I've just thrown it on the floor over there, was the card that came out to the side. And that's a card of mental restriction. It's a card of being trapped. Now, what this is not saying is that you have forged this incredible prison for yourself that you will never be able to mentally release yourself from. It's pointing out that you've been thinking about things in a very straight line kind of way. It's like, and Capricorn tends to do this because you're very focused on the end goal. You tend to, you know, go, right, well, this is the shortest road, or this is the most successful road from A to B here. This is what I'm going to do. And we've talked about in the past about how you kind of miss the stuff that's going off at the sides. Now, what we're not doing is ever looking for a shortcut, and that's not something that would suit Capricorn anyway. We're absolutely not doing that. You know the value of work, you know the value of discipline, you know the value of all of these things. But it seems to me like maybe you overshot a turn that you now feel like maybe you were supposed to take, because you were so focused and because you were so disciplined, and because perhaps you didn't give yourself an opportunity to explore the side bits before you, you know, went back to your path. Tell me about this Two of Swords, please. Thank you. What have we got here? We've got the Empress and we've got the Ten of Pentacles. Now, Six of Wands at the bottom of the deck here again, and the Empress is in a reverse. And it's like everything's not quite so fruitful. It's not quite so abundant, you know. It should be, because we've got a Ten of Pentacles here. Here's the focus, here's the goal, here's the thing that you have been working to. But something seems to have dried up a little bit in you. You know, there's that sense of creativity and chaos. And I think the reordering is the understanding that there's been almost too much order. There's been no possibility of stretching out your tendrils, you know, and just investigating what's going on at the side. You know, everything's become very straight line. And whilst in some ways, you know, that's very useful to be very, very focused in that way, your creativity seems to have taken a bit of a knock. And this unexpected rise of feelings towards something, I think, is having you questioning what the value of this really is, right? Now, that's not to say that you're going to, you know, sell all of your belongings and, you know, just go and live on a commune or something like that. I mean, far from it. It's a reassessment of priorities. It's a reassessment of what it is that you want to build. It's a reassessment of the direction of travel, because whether your conscious mind likes it or not, your subconscious mind is screaming for more. More connection, more emotion, more feeling, more creativity, a little bit of chaos into the mix. Now, because you're a Capricorn, you're going to do this in a very ordered way, and that's fine, you know. But it looks like you're mulling at this moment. You're mulling things over and trying to work out where your thinking has been very straight line. Where you've restricted yourself, where you have almost been disciplined to a fault, I think. That's possibly what we're looking at here, because maybe for some of you, you know, the issue is more that actually you're not comfortable with allowing this up. But the problem is with that Five of Wands sitting there in the recent past, that there's conflict that isn't going away. It's an internal conflict that is not going away. And the more you try to shut your subconscious up about things, the more you try to shut your intuition up, the more you try to ignore your emotions, the stronger they fight back, really. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. And this Ten of Pentacles, you know, your need for security and stability, the very common sense, very practical way that you go about your existence, where, you know, the trappings of having done things right, having planned effectively and executed that are all here. You know, it feels like there needs to be something more. There's something missing. But at this point, I think that you know what it is. So what we've got coming towards you in July is the Eight of Wands. Now, this is as all the tarot cards are, this is a multivalent card, and this can talk about momentum sometimes. But in the Llewellyn, because we've got wands going both ways, it feels like it's communication. It feels like a significant conversation that you're going to be having this month. And I wouldn't necessarily say it's with someone that you love and respect, but it's with someone whose words seem to have some weight. Let's put it this way, whether you like it or not, their words have weight. We've got the Knight of Swords and we've got the Knight of Wands there. The Knight of Swords also talking to a state of communication, you know, perhaps even the ability for you to be able to order your thoughts. Actually, I feel like you're going to get kind of triggered by someone. This combination of the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands together is kind of, it's fast and it rushes. This is not a significant conversation over a cup of coffee with a dear old friend, you know, who says, you know, maybe you ought to think about doing something like this. This feels like it's something that kind of triggers the shit out of you a little bit. And there's almost an urge to rush to a default whereby you can win the argument. Two of Wands. We've got the Seven of Swords at the bottom of the deck here. Like some suspicion of perhaps less than stellar intentions by the person that's talking to you, but nevertheless, it is bringing you back to this essential point that a decision needs to be made. Because somewhere deep down, this person has a point. And that's not something that you're enjoying at this point. I mean, it's not about winning the argument. It's about the fact that it seems to needle you on quite a deep level. Tell me about this Nine of Pentacles in reverse. Yeah, we've got the Nine of Pentacles and the Judgment card coming out here. The Nine of Pentacles is in the reverse. But we've also got the Five of Swords coming out in the reverse. And I like this for you because this is a stabilization. We've got the Page of Swords at the bottom of the deck. What's the word I'm looking for? Absolutely supporting this notion of you changing your mind about something this month. Page of Swords is for me about mental expansion. It's about picking up new information, going, oh, holy shit, look at this thing, like, and seeing the world differently. But this Five of Swords in reverse is speaking to where it is that you have floundered somewhat in your thinking. It's the realization that everything has been very strict and everything's been in very neat, you know, lines with everything, and you're kind of missing the stuff that's going along the side. It's an epiphany moment is what it is, and the epiphany is about the way that you are thinking about stuff. It's how in your quest for things to be determinable and achievable and, you know, straight line efficient and all that kind of thing, that you've actually in some ways made things harder for yourself. Now, this is good because that everybody needs that light bulb moment every now and again, right? Because that's where you change, that's where you grow. And I think despite the fact that this conversation seems to be coming from somebody who is needling you in a way that you don't enjoy, it's pushing you out of your comfort zone enough that you can't really deny that they've got a point where you can. But, you know, in the privacy of your own home later on, when you sat and you're thinking about it, you seem to me to be coming to a slightly different conclusion. And we have the judgment card there. We have big decisions being made off the back of it. So where things have been feeling kind of static, where things have been feeling like almost a little bit suffocating in some ways, right? Because you built everything so well. You put so much energy into it, so much effort into it. It should just fucking work. It should be efficient. But now things are going wrong. There's this kind of weird empty feeling inside of you. And it's like, well, but where has this come from? Like, everything's neat, everything's ordered, everything's tidy. What the fuck? What the fuck is the sea goat part of you going, knocking and saying, like, I want out. Like, let me express myself. Let me be creative. Let me be a little bit chaotic. Let me be, you know, the watery side of myself, sensitive and compassionate and intuitive. You know, I think Capricorns are hugely underrated intuitives, but often because they won't allow themselves to be. I'm sort of reminded, I just had it pop into my head, you know, when iPods first appeared and they had the random functionality on them, and loads and loads of people complained because the same song kept coming out 3 times, or, you know, they were only listening to like 25% of their music collection or something like that, and they were like, this random function on this iPod is absolutely shit. And Apple actually had to write a program that appeared random but wasn't. Write an algorithm rather for the iPod that appeared random but wasn't, so that people were placated. I bring this up because it's kind of feeling a little bit like what you're doing here, right? So your subconscious, the emotional side of you, intuitive and sensitive and all that kind of thing, is being triggered to shit by Cancer season. Right, that it's just knocking on. It's like, let me out. Now, to release that in its full entirety for you at this point, I think would be catastrophic, if I'm honest. And I think that on a lot of conscious levels, you would absolutely agree with that. But who's to say what you're not needing to do here, in a metaphorical sense, is write an algorithm that at least gives the impression of it, rather than truly, you know, allowing it all out at this point, so that you can reorder the order, right? So that you can kind of get used to it being there before you let it out a little bit more. You know, at some point you might be able to, you know, just put the truly random algorithm in place and let it do its thing. But the reordering of the order that you already have is to allow a little bit of the chaos in. It is to allow a little bit of the feminine energy in. So if you have to trick your conscious mind to do that, then that might be the way forward for you. But by the end of this month, you're going to be making some really pretty big decisions. I'd be interested to see where these go. I mean, we're going to dig into this a little bit more in the Vimeo. So if you're interested in coming to have a look and dig into the nature of this decision and how it might play out, the link for for Vimeo is in the description box. Also, obviously, if you're on Patreon, you get access to all of the extended stuff for no extra cost. So if you'd like to join me over there, that's really cool. If not, that is also cool. I just don't want you to worry if things feel like they're a little bit claustrophobic, a little bit like suffocating at the moment and you're not quite sure how to fix it. It's all going to work its way out in the wash. But I think that this is what it is. It's a reordering of the order. Allowing for a little bit of spontaneity, allowing for a little bit of creativity, allowing for a little bit of sensitivity, vulnerability too, so that connection is able to flourish. Right, I'm going to go to Vimeo now. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.